Hey everyone, welcome back to Couch Conversations with Sasha Love. I'm your host, Sasha Love, and you're gonna have to forgive your girl for looking a little rough. But you know what? This is me, natural element. We out here in these streets doing the thing. Okay, so I hope that you were able to take the time to really dive into last week's episode. I know that it was a little long, and I know that there was a lot in it. But I felt that it was, as I mentioned in that video, kind of foundational to our conversations about what it means to live life on a budget and what that really, really looks like for us. Before we can find solutions to areas in our lives, it's often important to find out what the problem is first and where it comes from, just as with anything. If not, we're simply just covering the symptom as opposed to fixing the source and the cause. So hopefully you were able to dive into kind of like that little assignment I gave you, or rather the assignment that I encouraged you to do, because you're more than welcome to do whatever you choose to. But more of like a recommendation of like digging deep and really kind of having that heart to heart with yourself. What I should have also mentioned in that video too was you can also journal this too. It doesn't have to be something that is fixed overnight. Some of these concepts and constructs we have about finances are things that took years to take root. So it's okay if it takes time to uproot those beliefs as well. So that's one thing I wanted to highlight, and I'll probably in the podcast you may have also picked that up as well. So, or hopefully I added into the podcast because I haven't quite uploaded that podcast yet, but it will be there. But yeah, so take the time that you need, and if that's the point that you're at right now and you really just kind of need to marinate on that and dig deep in that, please take the time. It is always worth it to invest in yourself. It is always worth it to dig deep. It is always worth it to find out and understand more about yourself and where you've come from and who you are today and what elements and what components of your life and which individuals in your life help shape who you are today, especially when it comes to your mindset around finances and financial well-being. So that's my little excerpt from the last episode, and also a plug again to listen to the podcast episode once it is uploaded. If you want to keep track of all the episodes as they come up so you don't miss a single one, feel free to subscribe to the podcast as well, available on Spotify. So for today, I wanted to dive into the next episode of our series, Living on a Budget, or LOBE. I'm gonna make it stick whether you guys agree or not. I'm not ready to give it up yet, but living a LOBE, living a life on a budget, in our next episode, our next series. In this episode, we're gonna talk a little bit about money in terms of what a healthy relationship with money looks like. So one of the Bible verses that came to mind was the story of the talents. So I'm gonna broad stroke the story, but please feel free to look at and read that chapter and read that story, because it's a very, very powerful parable. But the parable of talents, where I believe one was given 5, the other was given a few, and there was one that was only given 1. And the one that was given the least amount of talents buried the talents and just saved it for his master to come back. And when the master came back, gave back the same talent that the master had given. Whereas the others, they took what they had and they multiplied it. Now, when the master returned, those who multiplied the talents given were celebrated, because they multiplied what was given. They nurtured what they were given and it multiplied. But the one that had saved it and did not multiply what he was given, it was taken away. What he had was taken away. So again, that's a rough sketch of the story. Please take some time to read through it and really dive into that passage, because again, it's really, really good. But my takeaway from that is kind of leads into our discussion when it comes to what a healthy relationship with money looks like. So money. It's a complex issue because I feel like there's so many layers to this conversation, and I'm trying to be mindful of the words I use. But anyways, we're gonna roll with it, and we're gonna see what happens. But money, it's not always about the amount of money you have. You could have $3 million, you can have $3, but how you manage that money is what makes the difference. How you manage your money is what makes the difference, and that's a reflection of your relationship with money. Now, if you're anything like me, there was a point in my life where I thought money was evil and horrible, and it wasn't something that you should ever want to have, or something that you should ever dream to have or wish to have. And the history behind that is very complex. Maybe I'll get into that at some point. But I realized that I was scared of money. And because I was scared of money, I didn't deal with it. I didn't touch it, or rather, I didn't look at it. I spent what I needed to spend without checking. I just hoped for the best and just kept pushing forward. Over the years, as I learned what it meant to have a healthier relationship with money, I learned that money in and of itself is not bad. It's the relationship we have with money that can become problematic. So there are healthy relationships with money and unhealthy relationships with money. Characteristics of unhealthy relationship with money is avoidance, is a lust for money, as in like you want more and more and more and more and more, and you don't want to give, you don't want to share, you want to hold on to it, you want to hoard on to it, and you don't want anyone to have any. You want to have the most, you want to have more than everybody else. An unhealthy relationship with money also looks like selfishness. It also looks like resorting to certain behaviors like stealing, stepping on others, putting others in a bad light in order for you to get more money, get more access to money. If you have to resort to fraudulent behaviors, if you have to resort to criminal activities in order to get money, that's another unhealthy relationship. So essentially, your relationship with money is reflected in how you use the money and how you obtain the money. In contrast, and these are, again, broad strokes, and there's a lot more to talk about, a lot deeper, of course, that we get into in the podcast, and we can also get into in the comment section when we talk more. But that's broad strokes of what an unhealthy relationship with money looks like. A healthier relationship with money looks like someone who is able to handle money well. So in other words, the money you receive, whether it's a little or a lot, you use it well. You have a percentage that you save, you have a percentage that you spend, you have a percentage that you give to others, you have a percentage that you invest, and you move accordingly. You also don't view money as something that is more important than other priorities, such as God, family, friends, relationships, connections, community. Money is more of a resource. It's more of a tool that you can use in order to live the life that you choose to live, and also a means to help serve others. Healthy behaviors when it comes to money looks like giving, looks like giving freely, I should specify, because sometimes giving with like a double heart, as my mom would say, it's kind of like giving, but part of you doesn't really want to give. There's like a resistance to giving, or you're giving because you expect something in return. So that's kind of like a double heart in giving. When I say a healthy version of giving, it's more of giving freely, giving openly. It's also learning how to use money well, whether that's studying, reading books, reaching out to advisors, mentors, people that you trust, people who have handled money well, and learning what are ways for me to use my money appropriately. And the last thing I would say about money is that it's stable. So essentially, money is stable in your hands and it multiplies. So for example, if you get a paycheck, the paycheck doesn't disappear within a few days or within a week. You're more likely to know how to wisely use that money by living within your means and working within the budget that you have. So I think that's a pretty, hopefully that's clear. Hopefully that's a pretty broad strokes about money, because I feel like it's important to talk about this, because for me, I had an unhealthy view of money and an unhealthy relationship with money. And it wasn't until I learned the importance of having a healthier relationship with money that things started to change, that things started to look a little different. Again, it's not about how much money in dollar signs or how many zeros are in your bank account. It's how you manage the money that you are given. How you manage the money you are given. And a quick comment that I will add before I close is that, have you ever wondered how people who've won millions, the millions disappear in a matter of time, whether it's months, weeks, or a few years? It's not because the money in and of itself maybe wasn't enough, or they needed more money. It's more likely that the skills they had when they didn't have a lot of money were the same skills they carried when they did have a lot of money, and in both cases they ran out. So the reason why it's important to learn how to manage money especially when you have what you may perceive as a small amount or not enough, the reason why it's important to learn how to manage that is because those skills are the skills you do carry with you when you are blessed with even more, when you're given even more. And you'll be able to better manage more because of how well you manage what you already have. So hopefully that made sense. Yeah, talking about money and budgeting, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard for me to kind of relate that to you, but hopefully that made sense. So in summary, the point of this video is to really examine your relationship with money. Is it healthy or unhealthy? Is it unhealthy in the sense that you're hoarding it, you're keeping it, you're hiding it, or you avoid it, you're careless with it, you resort to behaviors such as stealing, lying, stepping on others, criminal activity, fraudulent activity in order to acquire money? Then if those are the habits that you're noticing about yourself, then those are probably indications of unhealthy relationships with money. If you're more on the side of you're handling money well, as in you're balanced with how you spend your money, you have a budget for how you want to spend, how you want to save, invest, and give. If you're able to give from a place of freely giving without expecting anything in return. If you're looking at money as more of a resource as opposed to something that should be coveted and honored above all else. And if you are looking at money as an opportunity to build your life as well as support and care for others, then you probably have a healthier relationship with money. So take a moment to examine your relationship with money, and whether you're unhealthy or healthy, it offers you an opportunity of a starting point and also gives you insight of how to move forward. If you happen to be on the side where you have more unhealthy habits, again, there's no judgment, no shame, and no criticism. And I hope that's something that you're also offering to yourself. No shame, no guilt, no criticism, and instead offer yourself grace and compassion. Because as we mentioned in the previous episode, financial issues, financial abundance, that whole realm can be very touchy, very personal, and can have some very, very deep rooted ties to our past, childhood, and upbringing. So offer yourself some grace, offer yourself some compassion, and use that as an opportunity to learn, okay, how can I have a healthier relationship with money? What are things that I can do to have a healthier perspective of money, to view it more as a tool, to use it wisely, to limit or avoid or get out of debt, and to live a life of financial abundance as opposed to financial limitation. So hopefully this was helpful. Leave your thoughts and comments below. We're going to continue on this series on life on a budget. We're going to roll with it. We're going to figure it out. We're going to get better and better as we keep going in this series. And as I mentioned in my podcast, we're going to talk a lot more about these issues and dive deeper and have a broader scope of these things. So remember to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify so you can catch every single new episode as it comes out. Alrighty, so until next time, take care. Bye.
Pop your melanin, girlfriend. Pop your melanin. Pop your melanin, girlfriend. Pop your melanin. Girl, you black and you beautiful.